I have the pleasure of talking to Clare Castle Brown today,
Yes. Hello, Christina. You very good to talk to you.
and everybody knows who you are. You are our hero in Sarawak and also in Malaysia with all the expose you have done over the years. So let's get to the point why we want to talk today. You have written a major new expose about type and property in the United States here. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, I think this is a very important development that Sarawakians need to think about. A few years ago, we already have exposed how Taib's family and Taib himself are the owners of millions and millions of dollars worth of office blocks and houses and properties in the United States and also in Canada and in London. Now, these properties were bought with money that he could not have legitimately had. These properties were therefore bought with money taken from the state of Sarawak, the people of Sarawak. So I've been looking at this situation and I've been researching more about it because there was always evidence that, in fact, we had only just found a small part of the property that the Taib family were linked to in the United States through the timber corruption that has been such a big problem for Sarawak in the past several decades under Taib and BN. Based on the research, I went to the United States just a few weeks ago and examined the situation further. Mm-hmm. And what I have identified is an enormous group of companies under the name of Sunchase Holdings, which are clearly connected to timber corruption and Tide Mahmood. This company owns billions and billions of dollars worth of assets in the United States, including several townships and several buildings and mining companies, all sorts of assets of enormous wealth and worth billions. What the point I want to make is that this wealth can be seen to have been taken from Sarawak via Samling and Taib. Mm-hmm. And it is now sitting in the United States. Mm-hmm. Now, I am arguing that the money, the assets that belong to this enormous group of companies is actually something that should be handed back to the people of Sarawak. And it's very valuable indeed. It would make a huge difference to the lives of ordinary Sarawakians if we could get this huge company back under the state.
So is there really any chance that this money could be retrieved for the people of Sarawak? If so, how do you think? What can we do? We are so helpless in Sarawak.
Well, actually, you're not helpless. And the key to this lies with the people of Sarawak, because in America, you have plenty of laws that enable assets that have been taken by foreign corrupt practices and kleptocracy to be frozen and returned. That's the rule of law in the United States.
Yes, it is.
So a case could be brought in the United States if the people of Sarawak and if the government of Sarawak or Malaysia were to politely ask. And this is why it is in the power of the Sarawakians and the Malaysians to actually make this happen. The people of Sarawak need to understand that they have been stolen from, and they just need to decide to ask. And if they ask, if they support a law case in the United States, they might very well get all this back.
And currently, the U.S. Department of Justice is working very hard to stop corruption in the U.S. here, and they have been very successful with it. So I hope that the elected official, especially from the opposition side, are listening in and do something.
I think that people have to understand that, in Sarawak, the people were given democracy. That is what gives them a voice to decide who is going to be the head of their government. Not all these civil servants, they stay the same. They are, they're there in their jobs. But the people who are in charge, the party who are in the Legislative Assembly and in the executive positions, every 5 years the people get a chance to choose whether they want to keep or change those political leaders. And that's very important. So every 5 years, the people of Sarawak get a chance to decide if they need somebody else to do something. And if BN are behind this enormous theft of land, the people of Sarawak can vote against BN and demand a government asks the United States to give the assets back. This is what the opposition parties ought to pledge to do. They ought to get the forces of law and order in the United States aware of this situation, aware that there are billions and billions of dollars worth of Sarawak assets that ought to be returned to Sarawak. And the result of that could mean an enormous investment in schools, in hospitals, in housing, in jobs. It could make a real difference to the lives of people in Sarawak. That's why it's important, and that's why Sarawakians should really think about this issue and who they vote for. I think what people of Sarawak have to really understand is that they have a very rich country. They're very lucky. Sarawak had many resources. Now, many of these resources have already been swiftly stolen by a handful of people who were running the country. The timber has almost gone, the oil has been taken, and as a result, the people of Sarawak, who could have been very, very comfortable if this money had been invested in helping them have better lives, are still very, very poor. Now, obviously, a lot of that money has been lost, but if we can find some of it, let's demand it back for Sarawak. In fact, if you steal billions of dollars, there's not much you can do with it if you're one guy, or a timber company. You have to invest it somewhere. And once you start investing it in countries where there is law and order, like the United States, then those investments can be identified and, if necessary, returned. So, people of Sarawak need to wake up and ask.
So in other words, you were saying the people in Sarawak need to be more aggressive on this issue instead of waiting for someone to do the work for them. Since this election, they have every chance to vote for a leader that can do this kind of thing, that have the courage and the guts to pursue it.
The rural folk must now, as you say, take their own, empower themselves, realize their power, realize their authority over the government. It is they who are in charge. That's how the Constitution of Malaysia was set up at the very beginning of independence. It put the people in charge. It gave them the right to change their government whenever the elections came, and indeed before, if necessary. That's the right of the people, and they need to take their own power into their own hands and determine how their country is going to be run, and not be told by others how to run their country.
And the time is now May 7.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you so much for your time, Claire. It's been a pleasure.